So, welcome everybody. We've got a great day in line for us. Louise, why don't you come on camera and share with us what do we have going for this week?
That's excellent. Well, I'm going to introduce the whole week because we really have got an exciting week ahead of us of various events. So it's a big warm welcome from myself and the rest of the OneWiSH team. And thank you for that introduction, Tamara. My name is Louise Hosking. I'm co-founder of OneWiSH, and I'm delighted to open our third International Women's Day event. We have some really great sessions across today, Thursday and Friday, which I'm going to say a little bit about in a moment. So please let the rest of the world know that you're attending. We've worked very closely with Sophopedia to ensure that there is one link to all of the sessions across the week. And these will also be available on our YouTube page following the sessions. Please do comment on the sessions in your own social media posts and include our hashtag, which is hashtag OneWiSH. Our LinkedIn page can also be found by searching at OneWiSH, where there's going to be I believe there's a live stream tomorrow. So we know there have been countless studies which show how women in leadership positions really does make a difference within the work being undertaken within our sector, to include discussions on EDI within the human capital and people sustainability debate. EDI really is front and centre. Despite this, our progress remains slow, and we know women have been disproportionately affected since the pandemic. Globally, gender equality is one of the UN's life-enhancing sustainability goals, seen as a fundamental human right and a foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. Health and safety is a predominantly male profession, but this is changing, particularly as we focus on health and psychological health and safety, which necessitates us to focus on a more compassionate and collaborative approach. We all have stories, but let's take a moment to celebrate success, recognition and advancement. This is not a women's issue, it's an organisational issue. Gender balance is good for everyone and creates more successful, more sustainable businesses. I know from experience that more flexible, family-friendly policies are good for all genders and breaks down stereotypes in more than just the workplace. Different perspectives achieve discussions on EDI within the human capital and people sustainability debate. EDI really is front and centre. Despite this, our progress remains slow, and we know women have been disproportionately affected since the pandemic. Globally, gender equality is one of the UN's life-enhancing sustainability goals, seen as a fundamental human right and a foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world. Health and safety is a predominantly male profession, but this is changing, particularly as we focus on health and psychological health and safety, which necessitates us to focus on a more compassionate and collaborative approach. We all have stories, but let's take a moment to celebrate success, recognition and advancement. This is not a women's issue, it's an organisational issue. Gender balance is good for everyone and creates more successful, more sustainable businesses. I know from experience that more flexible, family-friendly policies are good for all genders and breaks down stereotypes in more than just the workplace. Different perspectives achieve better health and safety choices, which means we all save more lives. A culture of competition, command, control, constraint, rules and barriers create toxic cultures. The modern health and safety professional is creative, innovative and intelligent, which is why, alongside good specialist knowledge, we must all enhance our non-technical skills, including creativity, curiosity and collaboration, to support a strong pipeline of success. These more feminine traits are not soft skills, they are power skills, which will see our profession viewed under an enabling spotlight in a post-pandemic world. We will be seen for the value we bring to any organisation of any size, in any sector and anywhere. I met Malcolm Staves a few years ago, and we had been looking at how to work with L'Oreal to encourage young women in STEMs. The pandemic meant our attention was refocused, but we continue to talk about the challenges faced by women in health and safety and how we could contribute to narrowing the demographic in our professional makeup. Between us both, we have connections around the world, and it has been via these networks we were able to evolve the coalition, which is now OneWiSH. And this stands for Women and Inclusion in Safety and Health. Each of the members of the coalition represents member organisations or corporations with substantial health and safety teams. You will hear from many of these member organisations across this week. We are so much stronger when we come together. We have work to do in our sector if we are to make a real impact on people who are suffering from ill health and come to harm due to their work or how they live. The theme of this year's International Women's Day is Embrace Equity. We have a fantastic lineup across today, Thursday and Friday, which can be accessed via LinkedIn or our website. Thank you in advance to all of our speakers and to the OneWiSH crew, particularly Louisa, Tamara and Melissa, for the vast amount of hard work that has gone into establishing these sessions, and also to Malcolm Staves at L'Oreal for your continued support. In a moment, I will hand over to Tamara and Louisa, who are introducing session 1. You are not an imposter, harnessing your inner superpowers. On Wednesday, we will be travelling to other sessions, and 6 p.m. UK time, I will be hosting a panel for IOSH's North East Scotland branch. On Thursday at 1 p.m. UK time, we have a great lineup, Embracing Equity to be Future Fit, in conjunction with the IOSH Chiltern branch, moderated by their committee member, Cyril Mata, and includes myself, IOSH President Lawrence Webb, Melissa from OneWiSH, Heather Beach, and Rita Hosking. On Friday at 1 p.m, we will be talking about women in leadership, hosted by Christine Sullivan, with Kathy Seabrook, Isadora Diaz-Heredia, Alicia Olo Martinez, and Carol Smets, before myself, Tamara, and Melissa wrap up the week. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tamara and Louisa, who are going to host this first session. So over to you and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Louise, for that wonderful introduction.
Thank you, Louise.
So my name is Louisa Jones. I work at OneWiSH, and I have involvement with a mentoring program that we have, that we run. I'm here today to introduce our wonderful panel, who will all be discussing the topic, You Are Not an Imposter and Harnessing Your Inner Superpowers. And I know as a lady, I have certainly felt an imposter in times in my career. So I'll give you a brief introduction of our panel, and then without further ado, we will kick off. So I would first like to introduce Anne Dimmock. Anne, I don't know if you'd like to put your camera on. Hi. In fact, all the panelists could put their camera on now so we can see everybody. Excellent. So Anne Dimmock will be the moderator of today's panel. Anne is the Health and Being Officer at Somerset Association of Local Councils. She's calling from the UK today. And she's also the owner of Work Safe and Well. And then our next panelist is Mohammed Hassan. Mohammed is the Occupational Health and Safety Officer for the Federal Government of Canada, and he's representing the Canadian Association for Black Health. We have Fumilola Oldakun. She's calling in from the United Arab Emirates, and She is the Environment, Health and Safety, Quality and Food Safety Consultant at Clemmer Concepts Limited. We also have Ashley Mackay, who is the Director of Safety at Ventures Capital, calling in from Canada today. And finally, last but not least, we have Dr. Stephen Guillory, the Safety Programme Manager at the City of Houston, who's a mentorship chair for Blacks in Safety and Excellence Community at ASSP. So it's wonderful that we have people from all over the world today. So thank you for joining us on your different time zones, some early, some late. And I will pass over to Anne to start the fascinating discussion.
Thanks so much, Louisa, and thanks, Louise, as well, for the fantastic. I'm really excited and honoured to be part of this programme this week. It's some fantastic panels, discussions and conversations that are going to be taking place. So we've got the panel, this amazing panel here, and over the next 40 minutes, we're going to be putting questions to the panel, and we're going to be giving them an opportunity to share their experiences and their opinions on these panels based around the theme of "You are not an imposter, harnessing your inner superpowers." So without further ado, shall we move to the first question and see how we get on? Okay, so again, this week is about harnessing this panel is about harnessing your inner superpowers and overcoming imposter syndrome. So I'd like to ask each of the panelists in turn if you can share a story where you've questioned your abilities and managed to overcome it. So if we give a brief response to this, please, so we can all fit everyone's opinions in. And I'm going purely on my screen here, and Ashley, I'm afraid you're the first on the screen, so if you wouldn't mind giving us your answer first. Thank you.
Not a problem. I would say that one of the times that I most felt like an imposter was when I was very new in safety. My very first job that was a real safety job, and very male dominated industry that I was working in. And I went to go out and do a hazard assessment of some sort. I don't even remember what it was, but the gentleman I was trying to get information from said, "What do you know? I have socks older than you," and immediately just shut me down and said he wasn't going to participate, and that I had no place being there. And so I just kept asking him questions, got to know him a bit, and we ended up doing the hazard assessment. He thought that I had some very good points in the end of it, but it was kind of that immediate, like, oh, what do I do here? I'm being directly challenged on my authority to be here and my knowledge, and it was a good experience because it led me to anticipate resistance off of the top going forward. And then it really assured me at the end of it that I did actually know what I was talking about, and it turned into a good experience. But the tagline of "I have socks older than you" has stuck with me on many occasions. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? We've got to try and accept that this isn't actually personally directed against you. It's the standard response some people are used to, and they don't. We have to rise above that, don't we? So, Stephen, could you give us some examples of where you overcame fear of your abilities?
Yes, ma'am. So I entered the safety world fairly early. I focused more on education first before getting into the field. So in Southern United States, being a young African American, I had many challenges coming in as a safety manager. Right, you're too young to, similar to Ashley. You're too young. Like, what can you tell me? I've been doing this for 30 years. But there was also that undertone of an African American and white dominated environment. Having that authority to make decisions. Some people just didn't like that. So that was a challenge. So by, having the education and getting the experience and just having a natural ability to have those communications, but at the same time, get the job done, enable me to succeed. But those are my challenges, very similar to Ashley, the age, but in my case, it was race also.
Thanks, Stephen. Well, sounds like you've done an amazing job of overcoming some of those barriers to do the work that you're doing. So Thank you. And from Malolo, you're next on the screen. Can you share some of your experiences of overcoming your inner critic and imposter?
Oh, yes, and thank you very much for having me. When I took a role as EHS manager in a multinational company, the largest pulp and paper manufacturing company in Africa, I came in as a health and safety manager. And it was a role that was previously occupied by white people, a man. And when I came in, it was like, what can you do? Are you actually here for internship, or you are here as the manager? And so what I actually did was to understudy the environment, understudy the people. And I also talked with a lot of my mentors with respect to the challenges that I was seeing, with respect to acceptance, because everybody around, you're meeting them and they will be like, I've been in this company for 25 years, have been in this company for a long time. And so you are just coming in and all that. And so I was able to overcome it with a level of understanding. And we also talking to my mentors and also learning about the culture of the organization and embracing them. And also at the end of the day, I became a friend to them first before I actually was able to impart my duties with respect to my health and safety office to them. Thank you very much.
That's really important example, isn't it, for Malolo, to say that, you know, we're going in as professionals with our skills and experience, but you took the time to understand the organizations you're working with and their values and their culture, to understand how to communicate more effectively with them and sort of build that trust. So that's very important skill in our roles. Thank you for that. Mohammed, could you share some of your experiences, please?
Thank you, Anne, and the rest of the panelists. I hope you guys are doing well. And what I can talk about is when I first encountered a fatality in the workplace. I was a health and safety advisor for a mining company 2 years into my career. Although I did receive theoretical training, I believe I was unprepared for how it would impact me mentally and my day-to-day interactions with my coworkers. So for instance, imagine seeing one of your coworkers that you used to see in the workplace, that you used to see in a toolbox, or whenever you used to do a walk around or a drive around in the mine, all of a sudden, you know, passing away or dying in the workplace. You know, how can somebody react to this? You know, although the employer did offer me counseling then, I believe I was never fully prepared to handle the trauma and experience of losing a coworker due to a workplace death. But what it made me understand is the reasoning behind, you know, the hazard assessments and, you know, doing the safety management system, these trainings that we do for the workers. And the reason why there's so much obligations towards supervisors in Canada, because in Canada, the supervisor does have a lot of obligations in the legislation. So it kind of, everything got put into perspective, but it happened during an unfortunate event. And I believe that those are one of the things that I was not prepared for in my current role. And yes, it does, as a regulator, you do see it, but not all the time, but at the same time, you're kind of accustomed to those kind of incidents. But coming in 2 years into my career, especially seeing a coworker passing away, that was an experience that I was not prepared for coming into this profession. And that is something that I would highly suggest that everybody thinks about, because that could happen. And employers should think about support systems for when it takes place or even prior. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so important, because we go through our day-to-day doing our jobs, but actually thinking about the wider impact of when things don't go right. It's about bringing compassion and empathy into that, isn't it? And trying to get people to connect with that. But it leads very nicely onto our next question, Mohammed, which maybe you could expand on what you've just said in responding to this one, because if you don't mind going first, was how do you believe that people's past and traumas, with a small t or big T, like you've obviously just mentioned a big T trauma there, can impact their adult life perspective and how they work as a team or show up at work.
Yeah, that's a great point. We spend 1/3 of our day in the workplace. And of course, everybody has a past they cannot let go of and a trauma they're trying to suppress. However, using the rule of thumb that I like to use is treat every worker with respect, and also how you would treat your own family member or a best friend. You know, it would go a long way. And, you know, you spend, again, 1/3 of your time with them at work. So it's vital that you show them courtesy, concern, and respect. Whether you like it or not, everyone is bringing a piece of luggage with them containing their problems to work. And it's for us to be a good listener and a good coworker. And if you're not looking out for one another, then who will? Like, if we're not looking out for like each other in the workplace, because these are your basically, you know, they're your family members in a sense. You know, as much as we don't like everybody at work and we don't like every family member, we don't want anything bad happening to them. So who will be the person to observe their coworkers, for example, that they're not fit for duty? You know, for instance, you might see something off with them one day and, you know, you might suspect something, you know, you might ask them questions. Are you okay? Because some of these jobs that we do here is really critical. You know, you're dealing with dangerous equipments. You know, there's a lot of stake at hand. So being observant is really important, especially for a supervisor, team lead, co-worker. So we all have to be observant and also give each other respect, you know, when we're coming on these job sites. So yeah, so I think trauma does impact us, but as well as we have to treat it with courtesy and respect and look out for one another. Because in Canada, we have something called internal responsibility system, where everybody is in charge of their own safety. Like you're in charge of your safety, you're in charge of your coworkers and safety. So yeah, so basically that's my put on this question. So thank you.
Thanks, Mohammed. You're getting a lot of support in the comments for your wise words there. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's more challenging now where a lot of people are working more remotely. So how do we look out for each other? But that could be a conversation for another panel. So Stephen, do you have an opinion on this? How do people's past traumas impact their adult life perspective and how they show up to work?
Well, you know, we all have our past traumas and just human nature, we do burn to work. But as adults, we have to really focus on your job, because that's what you come to work to do. But, you know, from a safety standpoint, and that's what we do. We also expect and try to instill in employees that they need to be safe in doing it. We have a saying in the United States, we want individuals to come home from work the way that they went to work, right? That's not just physical, that's also mental. You know, mental health is just as important as physical health, if not more. You know, that's a debate. But and I'll speak for personal. You know, we all go through things right now. My father had emergency surgery yesterday, right? Tomorrow I have to go to work and I have to be fully focused on my job, especially as a safety professional, because others are looking at me. And if I'm preaching to be safe, people are going to expect me to be safe, be focused on the job. It's a challenge. No one said it was easy, but it's just something that we have to do. So as safety professionals, you know, we're at an elevated level when it comes to that mindfulness of safety and putting trauma in the back burner. Also speaking from experience, you know, I mentor a lot of people at work and away from work. And, you know, it's professional, but there are times when we do get to that personal level and talk about certain issues that I may be able to help a person with, right? But the one takeaway that both parties have, myself and the other individual, is, hey, you have to focus on whatever task you're working on. Don't let that trauma hinder you. Actually build upon it. There's always a silver lining. I know that's a saying, and sometimes it's difficult to swallow, but there's always a silver lining or a positive you could take from a trauma. So I try to instill that when I mentor or just when I have conversations. hey, empathize, but at the same time, hey, we need you to be focused, especially at the workplace, because one mistake can be deadly to many. So that's how I kind of deal with trauma. We all deal with it. You have to show empathy. You have to show support. And similar to what Muhammad said, we have a different saying here. We have a general duty clause. But I hate when people say, who is responsible for your safety? You are. Everyone is responsible for everyone's safety. You know, that's just the general consensus. And I would love to hear that more in conversations that I have. So Muhammad, I'm still in that one from you.
Thanks, Stephen. And what you're saying here is about creating psychologically safe workplaces, isn't it? Where if people have been affected by either past or something that's happening in the workplace, if there's a safe space and say, look, I'm not, this is affecting me right now. I need support to help me work through this so I can fully focus on the job in hand. And if I'm not able to fully focus on the job in my hand, presenteeism is just as dangerous as not doing the job properly, isn't it? So it's really important that the people are present and able to do their jobs in a safe space. So Ashley, would you like to give some examples of your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. So I don't think anybody escapes life without some form of trauma. So those can be the experiences that shape who we are and can benefit us after we've healed from them, or they can hinder us. So obviously there's a large range there, and sometimes the people who have the most terrible traumas you would never know. They don't share that, and nor do they need to. So I think when we look across our workforces and the people we mentor and lead, it's really important to always lead with empathy and seek to understand, meet people where they're at, all of those kinds of things. So we definitely want to have empathy and kindness. I think if you always lead with that, you can't go too terribly wrong. If you try to, just like what Dr. Stephen was saying there, with people leaving work the same as they came in, I always aim for the same or better. We always say, you've come to work, you've earned some money, you've accomplished a task, and we can feel good about that. So we always want to have everybody come to work and be able to leave the same or better than they came in, but never worse. That's obviously what we strive for as safety professionals. So I think the biggest tip that has served me well is to try to always lead with empathy and kindness. And even if you don't know what's off with somebody or what causes them to tick the way they do, you'll never go wrong with being kind and empathetic to those around you.
Thanks, Ash. That's so important, isn't it? And I love that, because obviously we know the do no harm principles, but the same or better is even sort of an enhancement of that, isn't it? It's like, yes, people are coming to work, we're not going to harm them in any way, but actually we could help them grow and learn as well. So I mean, also you made a really important point there, that if people do have past experiences and they may not want to disclose at work, but just important to have the empathy to understand that they may behave or not want to interact in a certain way, and allow a safe space them to disclose if they wish to, but not to force them to disclose anything they don't wish to. But yeah, so finally on this question, what's your views on it?
Okay, in addition to what everyone has said, okay, what I would just add with respect to what everyone has said is that the gift of today is what everyone has. Everybody has the past. Everybody has gone through one trauma or the other, whether acute, whether chronic, whatever type of trauma that people have gone through in a part of their lives. And so it is important for us to understand that we have the gift of today. And so you may not be able to do anything about your past, but you can do something about your today, and which will also result in what your future holds for you. So if you're going through a trauma or whatever you're going through, at work, a workplace has its own set guidelines and rules on how to behave and what to do and all that. It is important that you speak out. If you need a doctor, it's important you see a doctor, because you have your innate ability to overcome whatever trauma that comes your way, okay? And so I would also say for us mentors, it is important for us to be understanding and also show empathy, like Ashley had said. And also Mohammed has said that we spend most of our time in the workplace, 1/3 of our time. So our work, everyone around us, like Stephen said, is that our safety is everybody's business. Everybody's safety is everybody's business. So we should see ourselves as one and show understanding, understand that you have a value of today, understand that you need to get through the past and put the past behind you and face your today and a bright future ahead. Thank you.
I'm loving these contributions, are so powerful. Thank you. And tying it back to the theme of you're not an imposter, harnessing your inner superpowers. What we've learned just from the panel here today is that we won't go through life without any trauma. So just knowing that you are not alone, other people will have had shared experiences. So that sort of overcomes the imposter bit, because it can be quite isolating, can't it, if you're feeling not good enough or don't feel you're up to the job or struggling, whatever. But having that safe space to have a mentor to discuss these issues with, or how you grow, then that's really important. So the next question, as we're leading on from this, because we have thought about these questions, so we have structured them in a way so we're leading through on this theme, is why is it important to understand the values and ethics of the people that we are mentoring or supporting in the workplace? Obviously we've talked about their past, but why is it important to understand their values and their ethics? So, and from Malola, would you like to take the lead on this, please?
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. People's values, people's ethics is a part of their uniqueness. There is absolutely nothing really we can do with a lot of with the makeup of people. And so it is just important for us to understand people's uniqueness in the workplace as a mentor to a mentee and as a mentee to a mentor as well. But there must be a synergy for everyone to be able to align and have a place to work together and an understanding, okay? And so for everyone in the workplace, it is important that we respect people's values, we respect people's ethics, and it's also important that we try to understand everyone and understand the uniqueness that everyone comes with. Everybody has individual innate superpowers, abilities that they can make use of if they are channeled in the right way. So as a mentor, it is important for us to understand how people, the makeup of people, like I was saying the other time, I took time to understand the environment and the culture. I took time to understand who are these people? And I was able to get through to them. So when you don't understand, it is impossible to impact anyone. So, but when you understand people and take them for who they are, it is easier to be able to drive your point home. And it is it's easier for also the mentees to imbibe the positive aspect of what you're trying to tell them, or the relationship or the aim of the mentorship. Thank you.
Amazing, for Malola. I'm an ambassador for the Institute of Personalised Care here in the UK, where we're trying to teach people how to have better personalised health conversations. And these skills of being able to listen and connect with people and really understand them, they don't take much time. It's just being able to listen and understand people. And if you can connect with people on that level, as you just demonstrated, in your examples there, you get a much more rich and productive and valuable working relationship, and people feel valued and supported. So I'm just trying to see who hasn't been next. So Ashley, would you like to go next?
Sure. I think that one of the first things when we look at values and ethics is that everybody having different values and different experiences is really what makes our culture, our workplace, our teams rich and diverse. And that's always an important thing to recognize and appreciate rather than considering it a hindrance. In safety, where we look at values, sometimes I think we see people with perhaps different risk tolerances, and that can be something that we need to address and coach on. somebody who has a very high risk tolerance can be obviously a hazard to themselves and to those around them. So that's one where helping people understand the ramifications of their actions and their choices. And just like we've talked about, the internal responsibility system, where people have to contribute not only to their day-to-day, but they can impact others around them. So that's one side of that. On the other, when we're acting as a mentor or a mentee, when we look at values and that sort of thing, I think that everybody has their own path. So when we're mentoring, it can be very easy to say, okay, well, I did it this way and it was step A, B, C, D. Theirs might be A, K, L, M. So, and that's fine. And I think that that's a good thing to keep in mind when you are mentoring, is encouraging and supporting somebody's path without boxing them into yours. So respecting their values, their path, their experiences, and their journey, and being there to support and encourage that without deterring them if it's not going exactly the way that may have been successful for you. There's many paths to success, and I think that's another thing that we need to recognize and celebrate, especially as a mentor.
Yeah, that's so important. Thanks, Ashley. I mean, you know, as mentors, we have to sort of get ourselves out of the way, don't we, and say, well, this is how I did it, but that isn't the only way. And I would like to say, when I'm coaching people, we shush the shoulds, because that should introduces some sort of shame and sort of guilt. Whereas, like, well, how could we do this? And it's taking into account everything we've already considered about their past and their values and ethics. Is really important to help them formulate a goal that's right for them, isn't it? And support them in their path. So Mohammed, what's your views on this about embracing people's values and ethics when you're mentoring them?
And as a safety professional or a practitioner, everyone brings different values and ethics to the workplace. But there are certain fundamental things, you know, we cannot really deviate from. You know, every leader or mentor or mentee, for instance, has to be a good role model. You know, they have to be a good person that has good ethical value. You know, we do have some professional ethics if you're doing a professional designation, or in general. You know, it's good to have ethical value in life and show exceptional leadership and competence to give your mentor or future leaders the tools to succeed in their professions. For instance, a good start that I would use is ensuring that the new worker or mentee is familiar with the legislative requirement. You know, that's a fundamental thing. That's the minimum standard, or the best practices in the industry, you know, or their internal safety management system that they have put in place. You know, at the end of the day, we're safety ambassadors, you know, and what we teach them is something they're going to be using in the future, or myself, whatever I learned from my mentor, I'm going to be using that for my future jobs, or for my day-to-day interaction with workers, or my day-to-day, you know, how I'm interacting with the rest of the workers, or my routine. So it's really important not to teach them any bad habits or any shortcuts, and, you know, try to teach them the fundamental values or the principles that this profession has. So yeah, that's what I believe. I think you should set them up for success. By doing that, you have to teach them, or not teach them, it's up to just be a good role model, basically. That's all I'm saying. Thanks
very much, Mohammed. Yeah, I mean, the theme of this week is about embracing equity as well, isn't it? So, you know, International Women's Day this year is about embracing equity. So we need to think about people's values and ethics in terms of to understand what they need, what support they need to achieve equity as well, don't we? And get them to the place they want to be. So, Stephen, do you have any reflections on this?
Yeah, I mean, all the good answers were taken. we talked about that during the practice session. Going last is great. So I'm going to take
your imposter syndrome kicking in now, Stephen. Just
yeah,
we want to hear what you want to say.
Yeah, but I'm going to take a different spin on it. But first, I would like to say, in a relationship, whether it's personal or work, having respect, or mutual respect, is key. If you don't have that respect, there's no point of the relationship, and that's no different in mentorship. One thing that, and I don't think it was mentioned per se, it may have been mentioned, but indirectly, but as mentors and mentees, you have to value each other's ethics, but the purpose of the mentorship is to build upon the trust, to build upon the losing the word, the values, right? It's my job as a mentor to build your values. You may not value safety as much as I do, for example, right? Because this is what we do for a living. My job is to build your value up when it comes to safety of yourself, to be more cognizant of your work environment, to be safe. So in a mentorship relationship, that's the key, is to respect values and ethics, but also build upon values when there it needs to be, and vice versa. I've learned a lot from mentees as a mentor, right? And most of those lessons learned dealt with values, things that I wouldn't necessarily have value before that conversation or that relationship. So I just want, people to kind of think about that when they walk away from this. Yes, you have to respect that person's ethics, values, but also build upon those values and try to build that person's values up if needed.
That's really important, Stephen. I think we have to remember in our roles as mentors what our role is in terms of, we're there to be guided by the mentee, as well as, we're there to provide support and experience, but also the mentee it's for their benefit, isn't it? But we can also learn, if we keep our beginner's mind, we can also learn from each other as well. So, and I that's the principle that I try to carry in all the work that I do, is have a beginner's mind. So yes, you've got a lot of experience and skills, but if you go in with a beginner's mind, you can always learn from whatever situation you're in. So so we're coming on to the final question now. So we hopefully will have time for questions at the end, or some sort of a little sort of summary. And Stephen, it's if you don't mind leading on this, how can we create, given all the things we've discussed already, how can we create a culture that ensures others feel valued and voices heard and respected? And I think we've covered quite a lot of this ground already, but if you could just summarize, so how can we create this culture in our workplaces?
You have to be that culture first. You can't expect the next person or the team that you work for or with to have values and, be cognizant of others, respect others, if you don't respect them, for one, and two, if you don't respect yourself. So it's all of how you show. There's a saying, you dress for the job that you want, right? That's the same thing. You treat people how you want to be treated, and that goes a long way. And honestly, if you don't, you won't get respect, and then it's a trickle-down effect, and then you have an organization or a group of individuals that just got a lot of stuff going on, and that takes away from that 8-hour day that you're at work. That quote-unquote drama takes away from the workplace effectiveness, efficiency, and it honestly can lead to injuries if you really think about it, and that's what we're trying to avoid. But if you go in with an open mind and respect everyone, it's beautiful. That's the best way I can describe it. But if you go in closed-minded, you're not going to reap the benefits of anything in the workplace, inside mentorship or outside. Now, speaking of mentorship, you have to be open-minded, right? If you're not open-minded, you're in the wrong business. You shouldn't have signed up to be a mentor, and you shouldn't have asked for a mentee. You have to have at times thick skin, because that person may provide some constructive criticism. And again, we're trying to build people up, prepare them for possible traumas, and we talked about trauma earlier. Possible obstacles. We're trying to build them up so they won't make the same mistakes we made as mentors. And as mentees, that's why I'm going into it. I want to learn what you know so I could avoid certain obstacles. We've had a dialogue in the past, in preparing for this. I'm probably the outlier. I didn't have a mentor. And because of that, I bumped my head many a times, right? If I had a mentor coming up in the safety world, I would probably have progressed a little faster, taking some different routes. I don't wish that on anyone. So that's my take on the whole mentorship, and working with others and being open-minded, because I didn't have that opportunity. And being a mentor, I see others do a lot better than I did, and that makes me feel so good. John Doe didn't make the same mistakes Stephen made, and hey, look, this is where he is, and that's a great feeling. I'm sure others on the call can attest to that. It's a great feeling. So I know, other than everything we've talked about, that's all I pretty much have to say, is just have an open mind. Don't judge by gender, don't judge by color. I mean, that's going down the wrong path. Open mind it's just a beautiful thing.
Oh, I'm just speechless here. Thanks, Stephen. I mean, that's just demonstrating the power of these programs such as OneWiSH, isn't it? About mentoring and people with experience, offering their experience, opening their vulnerabilities to people who have, are coming through to say, well, this is what happened to me. Do you want to do things differently, and how can we support you? And mentoring is such a valuable experience for both parties, isn't it? So brilliant advert for the OneWiSH program. So thank you, Stephen. I know from my experience, I've benefited from mentors throughout my career and in some really challenging times. And the one thing I did learn was I'm not my job, I'm not my income. I have skills and experience to offer and value, and having those champions behind you to say, well, let's talk about it and let's support you to get where you want to go, regardless of what circumstances you're in, has been a lifesaver in some cases, because you just get lost, don't you, in your life circumstances. So I've personally found it very valuable. Let's go. Mohammed, could you share your thoughts, please?
Yeah, I'm just going to steal one from Doctor. And, the best way to create a culture where everyone feels valued and heard is to have open mind, and also to have an open door policy. You should not be close-minded. You should be including your co-workers as well as the other contractors or other professionals that you're working with. You should be the person that's in between them. You should be the person in the middle, because everybody wants to ask you questions. So by you having an open door open door policy and not closing your doors towards anybody in the organization and keeping a close mind, then you will not really be effective. So you must, and another thing, that's really important is that you have to respect everyone as a human being, regardless of their sex, race, ethnicity, religion. And one more thing I'm going to repeat, that I've been repeating this through this entire panel, is that the people that you work with are like your family. We all have, family members we do not want to interact with, but unfortunately they happen to be our family. We don't want anything happening to them. So the same goes for your coworkers and the people you interact with on a day-to-day basis. We must learn and to accept this and start treating each other with respect and nobility. So that's how I want to summarize and everybody's opinion. And I really benefited a lot from the panelists, and it's a great session. And I hope to see more of these kind of events. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And it's been an honor to have you all on the panel today and have your such valuable contributions. Your mentors, your mentees are so lucky to have you as guides. From Malola, would you like to share your views on how we can create a culture to ensure that people feel value and choice to, people feel valued and voices are heard and respected? Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. You're doing a great job. Okay, so for us to create that kind of culture, I think cultural values or creating a culture in a workplace starts with you and I. So it is important for everyone to understand that what you want to see, be what you want to see. If you want to see people happy, be happy. If you want to see people respect you, respect others. If you want people to listen to you, listen to others. So I think I've used this path in my life for a very long time. I try as much as possible to understand people, show empathy, respect people for who they are, like how Dr. Stevens said. And also, it is very, very important for us to know that when we are in the workplace, when people have done well, it is good to appreciate them. When people are appreciated, they feel valued, they feel good. When they do something right, you should appreciate it. And when they've crossed a particular milestone in their career or whatever, you should appreciate the successes, appreciate people's successes. It is also important to note that people have also failures along the way, as we have had failures along the way. But it is also important for us to understand that the failures are also part of the training. Okay, so when you're training and then you fall on the way, the ability for you to rise up is also the winning game. So it's important for mentors and mentees to understand that for you to be appreciated, appreciate me. I also appreciate you. I respect you. Like Mohammed said, open door policy, it is very important. Everybody has something to say. And it is important to know that everybody wants to be heard. And so when you all give them a listening ear, they would also want to open up to you. And then when you talk, they will also want to listen. Okay, so it is very, very important. And so in all of it, cultural differences or cultures, having creating a safe workplace in the organization or everywhere that we are, we need to be the change that we want to see. Okay, we want to be the change. If you want others to respect the company's policies and ethics, then you should be the one to take the front line, okay? When you want others to listen to others, you should be the one to do that first. When you take the lead, others will follow. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Fumilola. So powerful. And yeah, just so important that people do feel that they're being heard, isn't it, really? Because then they feel they're contributing and they're actually respected as an individual. And if we can overcome our own inner critic, we can allow our voices to be heard if we create this safe space for people to have their voices heard. So you started the first question, Ashley, and you are ending on the last question. So could you add your contribution to this question, please? How can we create a culture where and others feel valued and voices are heard and respected?
Absolutely, and some amazing answers. I was so inspired by what you guys were saying there, so thank you for that. I think one of the first things is to be approachable, like Mohammed mentioned, having an open door policy. If the door is open and you're not pleasant to deal with, people won't come in. So I think those two things paired together really allows people to bring forward any concerns or create relationships, point out when things are wrong. We tell people to see something and say something, but if they don't feel comfortable saying something, you're not going to hear about it. Something that a couple of concepts that we use in our organization that I think lend really well to this idea is seek first to understand is a huge one. So understand where people are coming from. There's the analogy of the elephant, and somebody's looking at the ear and somebody's looking at a tail and somebody's looking at a trunk, and we're all looking at the same elephant, but we have such different perspectives on what we're seeing. So seeking to understand what somebody is seeing in their perspective goes a long way. And then the next concept that we really use a lot of is 2 heads is better than 1, 3 heads is better than 2, 4 is too many. So we don't have to necessarily be the expert in everything that we do or that comes across our plate. And I think in safety, just because it's so broad and there's so many different things for us to know and get involved in, it's really important to be humble enough to recognize when you aren't the expert on something and get the person who is. And I think that concept serves very well. So if you're approachable and you know what you know and say when you don't, and you seek to understand where people are coming from, I really don't think that you'll have too much trouble. Those are some basic concepts, just like we've said, around being respectful of people before we expect them to respect us. Definitely allowing people the space to be who they are, and then working with that, not trying to fit everybody in a box. So seek first to understand. We use that an awful lot, and it comes in handy in safety for sure. So thank you. And this has been a great panel. Thank you to everybody. This has been a lot of fun this morning.
Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, I mean, seek first to understand. I mean, we started off with, trying to understand ourselves. We have, and sometimes I think it was Carl Jung that said, with I don't know, I can't phrase it, but basically we're terrified of actually accepting or understanding ourselves because you don't want to go there. And that obviously ties back into your past and present. But, trying to understand, I always use a beach ball analogy, where if you and I could be holding a beach ball and they have these beautiful coloured panels on there, well, I'll be seeing one pattern and you'll be seeing the other one. We're both looking at the same thing. So trying to understand people's perspectives is key in this communication theme that we've been talking about throughout this panel. And I just want to thank everyone in the panel for their contributions and really insightful reflections as well. And my golly, if every workplace followed the wise advice that we've all shared today, what a wonderful world it'll be to work in. It's great to have you all as mentors in this program, and thank you very much. Hand back to Louisa now, I think, because we're about to close. Are there any questions?
Yes. Are there any questions from anyone on the panel? No. Tamara and I were just going to close the session then. Wow, I'm slightly blown away. I've written notes of everything I've found inspirational in key points, but there's so many I don't have time to summarize them all, to be honest. But a few quick things that resonated with myself is I loved the respect. Really, the respect word was used an awful lot, being open-minded, and the learning from failures. Fumi talked about the gift today. Ashley spoke about being approachable, empathy and kindness, and Stephen mentioned that everyone's responsibility is for everyone's safety, and I thought that was a very key message early on as well. Tamara, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I like that when we were talking about trauma and identifying that everybody in our life has walked through trauma, and part of our role as health and safety professionals is to be empathetic and to be kind and to be good listeners and understanding. Because I think a lot of times we get into that compliance mindset, or doing the audits, or here's another training, so I teach you, right? But it's a good point that you were all talking about leaving people better than how they came to work. That's really the whole essence of what we're doing, right? So thank you for bringing that messaging and reminding everybody that we lead by our hearts, not our heads typically. And when we get leading by our heads, I think that's when we're actually the weakest as professionals, because our strength is our empathy, our hearts, and that we care. So thank you for bringing that message today, because that is golden.
And I'd like to just add that, we have to remember that we're human beings, not human doings, and just actually understanding how we show up and, how we are in this moment can actually really help us connect with whatever imposter is in our head or our superpower, but actually connect with our superpowers and say how we can connect and respond. And it's really important to remember that.
Yeah, I'm just looking in the chat and I'm not seeing questions, but Louise, you said that you saw questions. Can you come on here and share what you're seeing?
Yeah, hi everybody. I thought that was a really fantastic session as well. So thank you to all the panelists. Somebody's just asked in the question box where they can, Agnes has asked where she can re-listen to the recordings, and all of the recordings are streaming live on LinkedIn, so you'll be able to go back and look at them on the OneWiSH LinkedIn page. So if you just search for OneWiSH on LinkedIn, and following the sessions, Tamara does a fantastic job of pulling all the edits together, and we upload them to the OneWiSH YouTube page, so you will be able to look at everything afterwards.
So, and I just put the link to our YouTube into the chat for people here who can access that as well, if you want to share that.
But
Wonderful.
Yeah, some really great insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So what do we have next? Well, I'd like to thank the panelists for coming and sharing your time. That's one thing I'd like to share next. You know, you've all taken time out of your busy days to come and share your knowledge with us. And without you, we wouldn't be able to do panels like this and get people's knowledge out. So thank you very much to all of you for coming and spending your time today to do this. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Particularly
Louisa?
as summer, I was going to say, particularly as summer, maybe not as sociable hours as others. So we really appreciate those alarm clocks going off very early this morning so you could join us. Yeah, no, really, it's been such a pleasure to meet you all and to listen to everything today. And I look forward to following you all on LinkedIn and seeing what the future holds for us all. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.